Alright, so with the format being completely terrible for any WCQ and Euros, and Konami showing practically zero incentive to change things for the better, I figured we could talk about what actually happened. Why did Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG become kind of unplayable in 2024? Please share your thoughts. I would love to know what you think about this topic, and also like the video if you enjoy it, of course. So number one card combos. We could kind of put all of this under one umbrella and call it gameplay overall, but I want to get into the nitty-gritty of everything and just talk about all of the incredible, I'm sure you think they're incredible, one-card combos that they have been releasing lately. So I know it didn't actually start with Snake Eyes. This has been around for some time, but Snake Eyes really hammered home the point. One-card combos are just horrible. They are terrible. Let's discuss this. So when you have a one-card combo, what happens is you have multiple extenders that you can draw, and you also have a lot of space for non-engine. And both these things are an issue, but let's address the non-engine, and that's a spoiler, in another point in today's video. So when you have the ability to force your opponent to interact with your one-card combo, you basically force them to waste cards, because you know, and they low-key kind of know, that you have other extenders and plays of and just ways of dealing with the disruption in your hand anyway. And if you take a look at almost any feature match right now, any DB match, like if you just take a look at a tutorial where someone is teaching you how to play through hand traps because you're gonna be able to do it because of the one-card combos, then you know that it's almost impossible for your opponent to win once you have that one-card combo established. Snake Eyes, our favorite deck, has Snake Eye Ash, it has Bonfire, Wanted, Diabellstar, and now it has the Fiendsmith engine. So not only did they give another one-card combo to an insanely overpowered deck, they practically released this one-card combo to be abused, not just utilized, in almost any deck because it's so generic. So not only are they printing these kinds of combos for specific archetypes, a good example is Melodious, which Refrain is a one-card combo, and I'm not a fan of that, but when you have a deck that's not as overpowered as Snake Eyes, it's a little easier to deal with it, even if you dislike it, if you know what I mean. Let's talk about Fiendsmith again. It's generic, meaning it can be incorporated anywhere. So you can use a deck that has one-card combos already, pair it with Fiendsmith, have another one-card combo engine, and then force your opponent to play through your board or to even attempt to disrupt you, which they're not going to be able to do unless they just want to hand loop themselves for some reason. You make it impossible for them to play because how are they going to interact if your one-card combo establishes everything and you have 4 additional cards to continue disrupting them, even if they disrupt you? A great example is one of the feature matches. It was actually the Dominic Couch feature match, which I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the actual gameplay when they got to play, but that didn't really happen. You saw Dominic disrupt his opponent like multiple times. I think it was 3 times, and he had 2 cards in hand. One of them was Fiendsmith Engraver, and the opponent, after making a mediocre board because you know they were disrupted so much, they just threw a draw into the graveyard. And it was enough for Dominic to scoop, even though he disrupted his opponent a lot. But he just couldn't push through a non-engine card that the opponent had and has the ability to play because of the one-card combos. There's a lot more to talk about probably. Like I said before, Melodious and stuff like that, having one-card combos, I don't like that. It's actually tough to play against Melodious if you're using hand traps, so like I'm not a fan of that, but let's go back because you already know what I'm talking about, and let's talk about the next point on today's list because it's the perfect segue since we talked about draw, and it's hand traps. And look, I was one of the people always saying like, no, why would you wanna like have Ash banned or something? Like someone would like throw a random opinion at you sometimes and they would be like, yeah, Ash needs to be banned or like Ash needs to be limited. But now that I think about it more and more, I think hand traps are the actual issue. Like the second we started getting more hand traps that target incredibly specific situations and scenarios, that's when it became a problem. Because before, for example, you had DD Crow, you had Effect Veiler, you even had Draw, which everybody kind of ignored, and Max C is its own beast. But you had hand traps that were not overwhelming. Like if you take Edison, for example, yes, DD Crow is very strong, but it's not terrorizing the field. Like it's not as insane that you're always gonna lose once you get DD Crow or something. And I'm not saying this always happens with hand traps right now, but it's just the sheer amount of them. And I know it happened because they kind of backed themselves into a corner, having to print hand traps because they printed broken archetypes because power creep, obviously. But I don't think your opponent should have the ability to not interact with you. I think interaction is something else. To disrupt you and to stop you while you are playing. I just think that's an issue. And I could, elaborate on this more, but I would love to know your thoughts as well. Like, do you think hand traps would have to be addressed in some way, maybe limited or something? We can also talk about specific hand traps like Shifter and Draw. People always like to talk about them and they kind of go hand in hand because they are indicative of a broken format, of an almost unfixable format a lot of times. The need to print Shifter shouldn't even exist if you don't print overpowered decks. So with that, I want to jump to the next point on today's list and in the video because otherwise we're going to be here for a while. And since we're talking about hand traps, this is perfect. It's just power creep altogether. It's the fact that you made a game so broken and you keep making new broken cards and printing new broken summoning mechanics and making different master rules and stuff. There's nothing else that you can do, really, when so much has been done already. But you still want to, give people the incentive to play and print really, really broken things because otherwise, they're afraid that the game is going to start dying out. But I do quickly want to address the dying out portion as well. So we talked about hand traps and one-card combos, and we are going to be talking about power creep as well. But I do want to throw in an extra, thing for today's list, which is just overall that they are showing almost zero incentive to bring in new players. And the players are they're not encouraged to play because of the complexity of the game. And I think that's a huge issue when you don't have the time to spend for actually learning and testing and trying your best, because it's physically impossible to do extremely well in the metagame if you don't dedicate enough time because of how complex the entire game is, and also because of power creep and everything they are printing and everything that you have to be familiar with. And another point that goes hand in hand with that is also the fact that there's this huge card pool because we don't have rotation. And what they do is they give support to older archetypes and stuff. Sure, that's cool. But there's a lot to keep up with. So I guess the entire point could be summarized as complexity and power creep and just no rotation. The game being too extreme sometimes. And I think this is a really, really important point. It feels like there is not one thing that could really help save and solve things. There's not a new master rule for them to make. Well, there is, but it's going to get even more complex, and the power creep is going to be even more outrageous because what they try to do, for example, is limit summoning from the extra deck only to the extra monster zone, and you started unlocking stuff, etc. It just wasn't really working because they were trying to force links on us when we weren't really down for it. There's someone just wanting to play Paleo. That's literally what happened. Like, people were just like, they could not summon Toad, they could not summon ABC Dragon Buster, and then Konami was like, oh, let's just limit those cards because why not? I'm sure they're going to be an issue. But all jokes aside, of course, they are unlimited now. And we have an insane game where Toad and ABC Dragon Buster are just the least of our worries right now. So yes, the entire complexity, just getting into it, there's so much you have got to think about and keep in mind and learn. And there's not enough time. And a lot of times, there is not enough money. And this is the next point, number 4 on today's list. It is the price of the game. And I know the community has been outraged for quite some time now. And I also know, please, don't come for me with the dot format was extremely expensive. Yes, I know. But this doesn't excuse the fact that they are literally printing broken cards as secret rares and short prints or ultras in random set. And I am looking at you, Bonfire. It doesn't excuse it. It is not okay for them to announce something like Fiendsmith, which we all know is game-changing, and printing 3 secret rares for the archetype. I think it's outrageous, and it's becoming worse and worse. It's just they do not care, and the prices are stupid, in tandem with the fact that you have to spend a lot of time, not to mention a lot of resources, to travel to events, to go to regionals, to go to a YCS, if you're from the USA, because they don't care about us over here. But you know, it's fine. We'll just get a couple in the fall. We're not even going to talk about that, honestly. But yes, it is the price of the game. It's horrible, and it is a topic that's been talked a lot before. So I would love to know your thoughts again. But I have covered this, I have talked about it, and I have said that, you know, it's not so expensive. It's okay. You can just play other things. But today we're focusing only on Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG and just overall being competitive in this sphere. So yes, needless to say, it's a big issue here. So I have covered quite a lot of points in today's video. It wasn't just 5. So I do want to leave the option for you guys to let me know what number 5 should be on today's list. But what I quickly wanted to also address as number 5 would be the ban lists. And I have also talked about this before, but I just, you know, with the ban list being announced to purposely be after NAWCQ and Euros, that's just terrible. That is not what we want. And even when they do drop a ban list, it's not going to completely hinder the best deck. And we can already tell this because they are all secret rare. And because, you know, when Snake Eye was also at its prime before, you had to buy Bonfire and Wanted and all of that. And they're just not going to do it to the people investing the money. So you can already tell the ban list is not going to be as effective. Not to mention they don't put it out a lot of times. They don't announce it ever, pretty much. They don't talk about the reasoning. And we did have the announcement of, yeah, it's gonna be after Euros, whatever. Like, sure, step in the right direction, but let's not talk about communication today because I'm over it. But the ban list not actually addressing issues and them underutilizing emergency ban lists, all of that, I just think it's terrible because you have no incentive to stay in this game when things are so unsure. And I quickly want to turn to one piece for that. When you know what your banned cards are going to be, what the meta is going to be looking like, can be kind of foreseen, I guess, or speculated on when you find out about the ban list. And obviously they're not going to implement this in the TCG, but I don't know. I think all of us would sleep a little better at night knowing that issues are actually going to be addressed and that FDKs and insane extra deck monsters is actually going to be answered and not go unaddressed again. So yes, I think that's all I wanted to talk about today. There probably is more, but I do not want to keep you. Thank you for watching until the very end. Make sure to like the video if you enjoy it. And again, please, I just want to have a conversation with you guys in the comments. So share your thoughts and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.